How's it going? David Locke here for the second edition of Tip Off. Thanks to everybody who stopped by yesterday, and thanks so much to everybody sending me the questions at hashtag Lock Tip Off. That's going to be a great addition this year. Big news out of Jazz Camp yesterday, and you got to be a little geeky to get into this, and maybe we'll drop some X's and O's and try to find some fun things to do with this. But the Jazz have decided to force baseline instead of force middle this year with their defense. It makes things much, much easier. The concept is if a guy's free throw line extended, let's say out on the left side, and he gets it, you jump out onto his right shoulder and force him into the defense on that drive. You're cutting off, then hopefully he can't. Is really that's where the pass becomes that corner to the far corner. Because if you do it right, you've eliminated his pass behind him, you've eliminated his pass through the defense up to the top, and you've eliminated the kind of three-quarter pass out to the what would then be the right wing. You force that pass down to the corner. It allows then for your guys two things. One, because you've eliminated the passing lanes, it allows for quicker rotations to that corner, and then everybody's got shorter rotations back. The Jazz have been forcing middle, and what that has done to the Jazz has made it so that suddenly the guys collapse. First, it's a tough decision on who makes that first rotation, and more difficult for a lot of the players was who makes the second rotation. You drive middle now. You can go here, back up to the top of the key. You can go out to that side, and you can still go to that corner. And it gets not entirely always clear of who's supposed to rotate out. At least create some thinking. The hope is that this year that it's going to be the opposite. There's less thinking. For some of the Jazz players, I think this is going to be a little bizarre because the Jazz have always done it one way. For Devin Harris, for example, he says, "Hey, great, this is back to the normal concept." The other thing I would say is that our bigs who are not great defensively, Al's a pretty good at the rim defender. So now, if Al knows that off that his rotation is always down to the baseline to help cut off that defender, well, then maybe he's going to be a lot better. He's still going to struggle on the high pick and roll and some of those kind of things, but you might be able to also take it away. One thing Al's not very good at is if someone gets it on the left wing and they set the pick and now they go to the middle and Al's got to go shade out defensively to cover that whole area, that's tough. But if instead the defensive guy jumps out on the corner and, or excuse me, on the shoulder and forces him to that left side away from where the pick is, then the next big rotates down, and maybe Al's able to do that a little better. Favors is quick enough, should be a little bit of a rim defender. So you've got two rim defenders there that should help. Now, I wasn't able to analyze, I haven't really figured out whether it's going to help on defensive rebounding or not, which was a problem. I think that's maybe a personnel thing this year. So, but there's some real positives that hopefully this is going to change. Last year, 28 teams in the NBA were playing it one way. We were playing another with the Orlando Magic. They had Dwight Howard. It also is, to some extent, this whole force baseline is a reaction to the increase in three-point shooting that has happened in the NBA. And some of the systems, frankly, the Jazz used were from Jerry from a long time ago that didn't, when you weren't shooting 24, 25 three-pointers in a game. So I think that's where this will be a large help to the Utah Jazz. Otherwise, Alec Burks continues to impress. There's no question that he's standing out. Now, as I said yesterday on the air, what I don't know is when they say he's standing out of the rookies, is that the rookies or is that also Hayward, Favors, and Evans? Is it the youngsters or the rookies? And I've got to get some clarification on that. Jazz went 2-a-days yesterday. I'll be down at practice and tweeting at Locked On Sports and blogging as well. To try to see what the latest is and give you all the information on what's taking place there. And again, the number one story of camp, if you haven't heard, is that Memo Okur seems to be healthy. And this changes the Jazz really dramatically. If they have a four-post rotation of Jefferson, Okur, Favors, and Millsap, now all of a sudden what has to happen is they have to figure out who's matching with whom and who works better. Jefferson and Okur on the offensive end are pretty exciting because Okur steps to the outside. Jefferson, it's going to be hard to double team him. On the defensive end, it's pretty frightening because neither of them is very quick. Favors and Okur would be interesting. Favors may be able to cover defensively, but is anyone good enough post defense, or does it let Favors have some one-on-one action? I'm not sure Derek knows how to pass yet out of that dribble penetration. Millsap, similarly, his quickness is able to do some things. He might be better with Memo, so you're going to try to see. I think Memo ends up, my guess is that Memo ends up backing up Jefferson and truly just plays the five, and then you figure out the combinations from there. And if Favors is ready, boy, that changes things because then you have Al, who's above average at the center position. You've got Favors, who's just incredibly gifted. He's elite skilled, probably doesn't know how to play yet. You've got the best third big in the NBA in Millsap, and you've probably got the best fourth big in Okur. And now you begin to play a game similarly to the way the Jazz did with Harpring and Fisher of whether or not you can get a starting crew that holds bay while your backups of Watson, maybe even of Raja Bell, of C.J. Gordon or Alec, of maybe Millsap and Okur are suddenly your second unit, and you're winning games in those 20, 15 minutes a night. As we talked about a lot last year, though, don't ever forget, starters play as a unit a dramatic amount more than bench guys ever do because of the amount of substitutions. It's very hard to keep that bench unit together in the course of a game. All right, NBA news. Chauncey Billups is heading the Clippers. That trade talk sounds dead again with Chris Paul, but we'll see. But right now, Chauncey Billups, Eric Gordon, Caron Butler with Farouk Amanu backing him up, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan because they matched that big contract, and Chris Kaman. I think the Clippers are a playoff team. Marc Gasol re-signs with Memphis. They're certainly a playoff team. Is Portland? I'm worried about Portland without Andre Miller. They're talking about running. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. Nate's not a running coach. He never has been. I think Portland's going to have a season of dysfunction. So who opens up for that 8th playoff spot will be quite interesting. Let's head to some of the questions. From Dixon D, do you think – oh, no, it was from yesterday. Sorry. From Andrew Thorson, when will we see the starters emerge? Two thoughts on that, Andrew. One is I think – we'll see the beginning Saturday, the scrimmage, and then Monday in Portland. But I also think it's very, very hard right now for a Favors to beat out a Millsap, for even someone to beat out Raja. They have so few practices that I think it'll be very, very difficult for that to take place. Bunch of questions came in on Aflalo. I guess he is waiting out various things, seeing where he can get his next offer. Or doesn't want to go to training camp, one of the two. I'm not entirely sure. But we have not seen anything from him as of yet. I still suspect that he would end up in Denver unless Denver has to really go big to match Nene. Houston will now make a bid on Nene. New Jersey's still floating around Nene because of Dwight Howard. Wondering which they're going to get, and then Denver can match or can give him an extra year. They actually can't match. If Nene's decide he's not going to Denver, we'll see. Sometimes these guys sign after 2 days, So who knows how that will play out. Thanks again for sending the questions to #LockTipOff. More questions kind of about the starting lineup, and I don't know. We'll try to see how that plays out. I'll try to see if I can find anything out today, though. I think it's a little bit of false information at this point. Andre Karolinko, a lot of teams mentioning. I think he's content in Russia. If he gets a big deal, I suspect he's coming back, but I think he's pretty content, more content than we realize in Russia. Sacramento B is mentioning him today as a possibility for the Kings. He's playing right now. He's got a buyout, 30-day buyout, with the team he plays with in Moscow. I don't suspect he's back on the Jazz unless things drop. Though the latest rumor was a 3-year deal for him, and then you might have to start considering whether you bring him back. This is nice for the Jazz because they're able to evaluate what they have right now and see. Things are still percolating with Josh Howard. And my theory on that a little bit is that that's the Jazz version of Moneyball. Here's a guy who 2 years ago was a $10, $11 million player. He's probably a $2 or $3 million player now, coming off injuries. And if he regains, which most of these guys are able to do at some point, you really hit. Raj was probably a $6 million player. He had his bad year. We got him for 3. It hasn't worked out. But I think that's the manner by which Kevin O'Connor is going through some of these things. Whew, I feel like I'm flying today. Do I see Hayward as more of a 2 or a 3 from SK Newbie? I see him as a 2, but if Alec Burks emerges at the 2, I think Gordon is versatile enough to play the 3. I do like him more as a 2. I think his length is more valuable. I think his passing skills are more valuable, and I think that works for him. At 3, some of his not as long, and some of his other athletic things suddenly show up as a negative along the way. Someone was asking me about Nick Young. What is nothing doing with Nick Young? No, I don't think the Jazz. And it wonders from G. Failer, who is not Gay Fokker, but he's G. Failer. Sorry, I just saw that movie the other night. I think that Nick Young, he's a mass possession user. He's very inefficient. He's incredible ball hog. Unless we need some scoring, but I'm not sure that's how you do it. I'm not sure that's the right answer for him for the Jazz at this point in time. But they do need some depth. All right, that is tip-off for Tuesday.